Hey y'all, it's Jada Ellis from Ellis Towing Company, and you're watching my Book of the Month review featuring Pattern Magic 2. Hey y'all, it's Jada, and I'm here doing my first Book of the Month review video. So if you follow my Instagram, you know that recently I just started doing my Book of the Month reviews. I feel like this will be a cool thing to add to my YouTube channel and also my Instagram, because I feel like for a while I always wanted to know, okay, what are the books that I need to get that's really going to help me? You know, I feel like a lot of books, they would just show you the basics of how to do certain things, but I wanted to get to the good stuff. You know, once you already know the basics, like what are the books to get? So each month I will be featuring a new book on my YouTube and also on my Instagram at Ellis Sewing Co. And I'll do a few tutorials on the book during that month, and I'll also just be posting different cool features or just different things that I thought were cool about the book on my page. So yes, this month's book, well, September's book of the month was Pattern Magic 2. Now I will say this is a really good book, but I only recommend it for designers who already have some experience with pattern making. If pattern making is something that is new to you, then I would say get the book, but maybe learn a little bit more before you start working in it, just so you can make sure you have a good understanding of it. But another thing that I like about this book is that it actually pushed me to take some techniques that were not really my style, or I guess that were even out of my comfort zone, and turning them into my own. This book features so many different styles that you really just wouldn't expect, well, depending on what type of designer you are. But I feel like for most probably wouldn't expect to incorporate these techniques in their designs. But I feel like I had to just change the way that I looked at it, and I had to think, okay, so this is the technique. Now, how can I use this for my own brand or for my own style? And even with this technique on the cover, this is called the accordion technique, which I actually did a tutorial on this one. But instead of taking this and using it as a sleeve pattern, I ended up turning it into a bodice. And what I turned it into fit my style, and I also just got to expand, you know, what I'm able to do, what I'm capable of creating. So I will say this is a book that will definitely challenge you and can help you grow as a designer in your pattern making skills, and even just throughout your design. So if you are interested in getting this book, it's available on my website, and the link is below in the description box. So make sure y'all go get that. And if you want to know my next book of the month, or my future books of the month, make sure you go and follow my Instagram to get all the updates. And if not, then y'all will see October's Book of the Month review on my YouTube page later in November. But yeah, so with that being said, let's get straight into the tutorials. Alright y'all, so to do the accordion technique, this right here, this is all we need as our pattern piece. Okay, so we're calling this our crescent moon shaped pattern piece. So to create this, what you want to do is you want to draw a line that is 6 inches long. Now I'm doing this on the edge of my paper because I'm about to create a half circle. Alright, so now I'm going to go 6 inches both directions. So go 6 inches over this way, put a line, and then same for over here. Alright. So now, just to make sure I do the shape just make little markings. And then, as you can see, this ruler is still at 6 inches. I'm just turning this at different angles. So now what you want to do is just go and connect these dots. Alright, so now that we have our half circle, you want to measure up about 1.5 inches. Going upwards and then also going sideways at both of our corners, if that makes sense. So just to show you, so 1.5 inches up that way, and then we have 1.5 inches this way, and then again over here. Alright, so now I'm about to connect the dots and basically making another semicircle from this point to this point. Okay, so now that we have this drawn out, I'm gonna come over here and we're gonna mark this side sleeve opening, and then this side the sleeve cap. Okay, so I just realized that while I was recording, my phone died. So I'm just about to walk y'all through what I just did. This is actually the finished pattern shape, what you should have. So the first thing I did was I went to both of these ends and I measured 1/2 inch, and so then I marked a 1/2 inch right here, and that's right at the top of our little semicircle thing going on there. And then I went over here and marked a 1/2 inch there. After that, I came to our center line, and then I went and I marked 1.5 inches down from the top of our line. So then that's how I got this. Ignore this line right there. Alright. So then after that, I came back over here and I measured about 1.5 inches up from this point along this line. And that got me to about right here. And I just made a small line. I did not make this full line yet. So I just made a small little line just to indicate that this was 1.5 inches above. So then after that, I took my ruler and I measured that from this point to our 1/2 inch point. I measured that was about 5.5 inches, and then from this point to that point right there, I measured that was about 4.5 inches. So I wanted to make this curve nice and smooth. So what I did was I took the middle number, which is 5, and I made a little point right here from this point to here. That's about 5 inches. So I made a little mark at 5 inches, and then I also made a mark on this side at 5 inches. And then I just connected the dots with a nice little curve. And then to finish everything off, I came back here. Let me make this a little darker. So yeah, I had finished everything off with a nice curve. Alright, so then I came back to this end over here and I made a straight line going across. This indicates where our sleeve will actually, or our accordion pattern will actually end. So I took the little marker that I had and I just finished drawing that line completely across. And to make sure it was straight, I just used my ruler. Alright, so now that is how we got this pattern piece. So now that it is done, I'm going to go and cut this out. Alright, so now this is our pattern piece. So if you were to do this as an accordion sleeve, you would need about 16 of these cut. Now for what I'm doing with this pattern right here, I'm not doing a sleeve, but I still am going to cut out 16. So I'm about to cut all the pieces out and then I'll show y'all how to sew them. So this is how you cut it out. Alright, so sewing these together are really easy. What you want to do is start off by lining these up with right sides together. And I'm going to sew the outside curve together first, alright? So I don't pin these just because they are so small. Now, I have my needle as far over to the right as it can go, and then I'm sewing this right along the edge. Okay, so now flip this right side out. So now, with the next piece, I'm going to line the inside curves together. And you want to make sure, like, if you notice, I have all the small pieces being sewn together on the same end and all the longer pieces being sewn together on the same end. But yeah, so now I'm going to line up our inside curve and then sew that the same way right along the edge. Alright, so yeah, it's pretty simple. First you sew the outside curves together, and then you'll go to the next one and sew the inside curves together. But now I'm about to sew another one on here, and then I'm going to show y'all the next step, which is pressing it. Alright, so pressing this, you want to make sure that you have these here. Alright, so when you press this, you want to make sure that you can get these on the fold as much as possible. So just try and push these folds out and then kind of finger press it a little bit and just get everything placed. Oh, there we go, so y'all can see better. Alright, so finger press it just a little bit. Alright, and then get these nice and flat on top of each other. Alright, so now I'm going to go and take my iron and just press this out. So now this is nice and flat. And then when you pull it together, when you pull it out, this is what we have. So yeah, that is how we do the accordion technique. And now I will just go, oh, this is a little wrinkled, so let me just fix that up. So So now what I'm about to do is finish sewing the rest of these and then show y'all my idea of how I wanted to use the accordion technique. Alright y'all, so this is what our accordion sleeve pattern has turned into. It has turned into a bra, y'all. To do this, all I did was basically use 8 of the pattern pieces on each side to create the cup, and then I just draped it on top of the dress form, and then I want to say I cut about maybe 2.5 to 3 inches off on both sides so that way it could fit the bust perfectly. But yes, this at the top of like a really fitted gown would be so bomb. But yeah, I took our sleeve pattern and I turned it into a completely different look. So we are doing our first tutorial from our book of the month, which is Pattern Magic 2. Now, for this tutorial, I am going to be showing y'all basically how to create this. It's called the cowl neck, and basically how to use this book to make your own patterns, but also just transform it into your own. So again, this is Pattern Magic 2, and we are working from page 58, cowl neck design. So to start everything off, we're going to need our fabric. We're going to need some craft paper, a basic bodice back pattern. We'll also need fabric scissors, paper scissors, and then a fabric marker and a pencil. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is trace our pattern out. Alright, so we got our pattern traced. Now, the next thing we're going to do is mark our darts. So I have this shoulder dart, and I also have this back dart at the bottom. And now that I have that, we're going to subtract all of our darts from our pattern. So this bottom dart right here is about 1.5 inches long. So I'm going to subtract 1.5 inches from this side, and then connect those 2 lines. We'll connect from right here under the armpit all the way to that point. There we go. Alright, so that, and then this is 5/8 of an inch, this dart, and I don't want to take this off from the neck, so I'm actually going to take this out right here. So there we go. Alright, so now this is our pattern shape so far, and I'm just gonna go in and just mark these lines out so that way I don't get confused or anything. Now we're gonna come over here and we're gonna write on fold. We will not have a center back seam, so you want to write that that is going to be on the fold. Okay, so now what we're about to do is basically open up this entire top half of our pattern piece and make it spread that way towards the right. So now we have all of our lines, and we can go ahead and just cut this out. Alright. It's actually one more line I forgot to mention. Okay, so the last line, you're going to go from this point right here, and then you're going to finish off the line by going straight down in between the two bottom points for the bottom of where our dart would have been. Okay, so there we go. That's all of our lines. Okay, so now we are about to cut to and not through, and basically cut along all of our lines. And once you get really close to the edge, you just want to stop cutting. Our pattern piece, and we just want everything to lay like so. So then we're going to go and just pin this to our fabric. So remember, we are lining this right up on the fold, and you want to make sure these are all spread out nicely. So you want these first two to be spread out about 2.5 to 3 inches, maybe even 3.5, and then you want this one to be spread out about 1.5 to 2 inches. And then this last one can be spread out about 1 inch. Alright. And now I'm just going to go and pin all of this in place. Okay, so we got our pattern pinned in place. Now we can go ahead and cut this, but before we do that, you want to take your ruler and about, I want to say 2.5 inches down. You want to go and just draw a straight line across this pattern. Alright. And now we can cut this out. When you get to this part, you're going to cut along this line right there. Okay, so this is what you should have. And now the last thing we need to cut out is we basically want to create a facing. So we're going to just cut out a strip that's a few inches wide. Now I know this is actually probably going to be a little crooked, but this will be our facing, it will end up, well, for future reference, I'm not about to actually sew this to our garment, but you'll need to interface this, and then you'll have to sew it along this top edge. But now we're about to take this to the dress form and see how everything lays. All right, y'all, so this is the back of our pattern. Remember, this is the cowl neck design. But yeah, so this is the back, and then you turn it to the front, and this is what we're working with. You know, something nice and simple. But yes, our bodice is completed, and this is our pattern. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all for our next book of the month tutorial. Make sure you follow my Instagram at JaelOfficial and Ellis Sewing Company, and join my Facebook group. Thanks for watching.